Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you about all things sport, nutrition and dietetics. My name's Kel. I am a dietitian and a nutritionist and a sports dietitian. I graduated from Curtin University here in Perth back in 2010. So I've been practicing nutrition and dietetics for quite a while now. I worked in community practices, so with GPs and out in rural and remote communities. I've worked in hospitals, and then I also traveled to Melbourne to do my sports dietetics course and come back with an extra degree to try and help people fuel performance on and off the field. Today I want to talk to you about premium fuels, how to adequately fuel our bodies, and this is every day. So what we really need is a baseline. There's no way that we can just expect to rock up on race day or work day and think that popping some gels or having some snake lollies are going to get the job done. We can't get our energy just from caffeine, and I know we like to, but we also need to work on our baseline. So what is our baseline diet? So if you think about it, you've got your premium fuel, you've got your, you've got your high-end unleaded, or you've got the cheap and regular. You girls probably know a bit more about this than me, but it can make a difference to the performance of your vehicle. So the same thing goes with our bodies. So my baseline that I recommend to all people, and I always start at baseline. There's no point jumping into the carnivore diet or the 5 and 2 or whatever the latest fad is. If we don't have an adequate baseline, then we've got little room to make those minor changes as time goes on in our lives. So what is the baseline? So I know it can be a little bit boring, but it does work. And that's our 5 core food groups. So we're wanting to be getting a lot of our energy from our high-end carbohydrate group, so breads and cereals, so things like oats, basmati rice, noodles, pasta, multigrain bread and wraps. So that gives us our big energy. So our big macro is our carbohydrate. Then we want to build up upon that with our dairy foods. We need to look after our bones, especially as we get older. Women in particular have a higher need for dairy than men. And as we get older and the effects of estrogen, we actually need even more. So we need plenty of milk, cheese, yogurt, and no, ice cream doesn't count. Then continuing on this, we want huge amounts of vegetables. Unfortunately, Aussies just do not eat enough veggies, and they really are our savior. So that's more where our micronutrients come in, our antioxidants, our vitamin C, those really important tiny nutrients that fuels our body and keeps us really well. I have seen in my career overconsumption of carrots and people turning orange. However, it's pretty hard to overdo the vegetable component. We want heaps of veggies, lots of fiber, and should be filling us up, should really be coming from that. Fruit is important. We don't need as much as we do our veggies. So 2 serves a day is adequate for our fiber, antioxidants, and again, those same vitamin C and all those, important things. So, 1 banana, 1 apple a day, or a whole punnet of blueberries if you're me, and just sit there. When you just want a snack, you can just grab some blueberries or some strawberries. Super healthy, super smart. What am I missing? Protein group. So things like meat, chicken, fish, ideally nice and lean with the skin off is the best to reduce our saturated fat intake. And no, bacon doesn't count there. So, the whole carnivore diet and smashing bacon, not so much on the healthy eating pathway. So, so in a recap, we want those big carbohydrates from breads and cereals that are low GI. We want our fruit and our veggies, our dairy, and of course our protein from eggs, fish, chicken, lamb, beef, all of those things. And then of course that would lead us into talking about portions and things in time. There are multiple points in time where you can change what you're doing and eating and drinking to fuel better performance. The key points are before, during, and after. This could be in training or on race day. Ideally, if you're practicing it in training, you're actually, adapting to those things that you're doing, and you'll have better performance come race day. So really important to have baseline, to practice your sports nutrition principles in training, and then implement the whole combination come race day. So I said before training or before your performance activity is an optimal time to be, doing some sports nutrition principles. What that means is generally carbohydrate. So carbohydrate is a macronutrient that breaks down to glucose eventually. Glucose is the body's preferred source of fuel, so it really is our unleaded. It is just there's so much evidence to support the use of carbohydrates as a performance fuel. So the evidence backs this up. So 3 to 4 hours before your training, so think about it, you're out working, you want to start training at 5 p.m. So really you need to focus quite hard on lunch. So if you're just having a salad with 2 boiled eggs, you might find that your performance in the gym feels a bit, you go to lift a weight, it feels heavy. So that's the perception of effort. The perception of effort can be incredibly high if you are under-fueled. And, we don't want to just rely, so again, not relying on just some pre-workout to get us by for that activity. If we've done breakfast, lunch, snack, train, then you have better performance in the gym. What does better performance lead to? Better outcomes, better gains, better adaptation. So don't be afraid of it. The quality and amount does matter though. So at lunch, I'd be looking at having some low GI carbohydrate, so a wrap or some multigrain bread or some basmati rice. And I'd be teaming that with some protein such as chicken, fish, boiled eggs, and having that. So if you're looking at that window, 3 to 4 hours before, you want low GI carbohydrate. 1 hour or 30 minutes before you start exercising, you want some higher GI carbohydrate, something that just quickly gives you a quicker release. So you think, you just need that little top up. The fuel tank has started to drop a little bit. We're just going to top it up just a smidge to get better performance in the gym. It could be something as simple as a banana, or a honey sandwich, or 4 dates. I'm not talking huge amounts here, just enough glucose to get you through that session. I guess I might come around to supplements later, and I did mention caffeine. There is evidence for the use of caffeine before performance. It doesn't directly give you energy like glucose does. Glucose actually enters a metabolic pathway to produce energy. Caffeine actually stimulates the central nervous system to make you feel more alert and that perception of effort to be less. So slightly different, but both give you that feeling of, yeah, I can go lift weights, or yes, I have energy and I feel good. That's what we want. Now, the other time for sports nutrition is during. So there's no evidence to consume anything during a workout. You don't need BCAAs and you don't need Gatorade unless you're working up in the Pilbara and you're just sweating incredibly and your session is going to be longer than 60 minutes, then yeah, maybe you do. But if it's just general training, you can usually get by just fine. If you are training for endurance, then you might need something, but that's more specific, and we can talk about that another time if you need to. So the last opportunity is after. But Kel, we've already worked out, we've burnt those calories. We want to keep it that way. The difference is though, if you're training multiple times a week and you have racing on, if you burn up all that glucose you've burnt up, if you don't top that up, how are you going to perform the next day? So really, it's an opportunity to replace what you've used and make sure you're hitting your protein for repair of the muscles. So all those tiny micro little muscle tears, we want to build them back up with amino acids. Where do we get amino acids from? Protein. So you've got your high biological value protein from your meat and dairy, And then lower biological value, if you're vegan or vegetarian, is completely fine, from your beans, eggs if you consume them, fish, nuts, legumes, all completely fine. You just might need to eat a little bit more and take a little bit more care in making sure you're getting all the amino acids. So a little recap there. For performance, 3 to 4 hours out, low GI carbs is the big thing. 30 to 60 minutes out, a more high GI carbohydrate is what we're looking at. During, you may need 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour if you are performing. Then afterwards, we really want to be hitting that protein for repair and carbohydrate to replenish stores so that you can go hit the gym day after day without having a slump in your energy. I keep harping on about baseline, but girls, trust me, it's important. So, day-to-day living, work life. We have a big work day ahead of us. We need to fuel that. So, you fuel for racing. Why aren't we fueling for our everyday life? So, running around after kids, lifting heavy things, even an office job like I'm doing at the moment, your brain only works off glucose as its preferred fuel. So it's important to be having regular meals throughout the day. Everyone is different, and you need to take the advice and put it to your lifestyle so that you're able to implement these healthy practices that suits your lifestyle. So just remember that all the time. Now, if we start the day with breakfast, so what does breakfast actually mean? Literally break the fast. So we've had an overnight fast of 10 hours, more or less, depending on what's going on. If we break that fast with some low GI carbohydrate for energy, high protein, and ideally, remember, we want veggies and fruit, then that's going to really kickstart our metabolism. It gives the brain energy, it gives your muscles energy so that you can get on and achieve all your goals. That is going to look very different on everyone. That's why I love the concept of those 5 food groups and using the principles. So, I'll try not to talk too much about myself, but I like to just make examples. I hate cereal. So how am I going to get my carbs? Multigrain bread with some eggs on top. Someone else might like muesli with yogurt and fruit. Other people might like porridge oats or a brekkie wrap, so wrap, lettuce, tomato, egg, so what I'm trying to get here is you've got the principles of carbohydrate and protein and try and add some veggies in, and you can make that work how you would like. I hear over the years so often, I hate brekkie, Kel, don't want to do it. The people that have come around have found strategies to make that work for them. So things like having a smoothie or being in the car and having more like a breakfast bar. Even, again, just a simple banana, something just to keep you going. Some of the most common things I've heard is, 10 o'clock looking for a sweet fix, so a muffin or some cake or chocolate. That can be from the actual lack of carbohydrate in the first place, so low glucose energy. So again, have some brekkie. Come morning tea, you might just like a snack, a banana, a muesli bar, or a small handful of nuts and seeds, punnet of blueberries, just ticks you along a little bit. Come lunch, again, we're looking for balance. So vegetables, carbohydrate, protein. So wrap, chicken, salad. It might be leftovers from last night, basmati rice, beef, vegetables like a stir fry. It might be a Thai beef salad. So the salad, vegetables, beef, and maybe get your carbohydrate from some rice noodles. There's many ways to make this work if you're using the basic principles. Come afternoon tea, same thing again. Maybe a small snack helps curb hunger and prevents overeating at the next meal, which might lead to dinner. So you might want a small potato, a small bit of beef, and a huge amount of vegetables. Or if it's vegetarian, you might have a vegetarian lasagna based on beans or legumes. Very enjoyable. Then plenty of water throughout the day, because without our water, none of that's going to work. And when you tea that all together, I find that those small, frequent, nutritious meals are enough to give you energy and keep you more stable. So a classic example I see this all the time. My client will come in, Kel, all I want is sweet things at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You see it at work all the time, people looking for that pick-me-up to get through the afternoon. It's generally not the 3 o'clock that's a problem, it's what's come before it that is the issue. So I find that, going no brekkie, no lunch, then there's massive glucose hit in the afternoon, just leaves your body a bit like, what is going on? Whereas if we do brekkie carbohydrate, lunch carbohydrate, dinner carbohydrate with those little snacks, and I'm talking little snacks, I'm not talking chips, donuts, I'm talking food, real food, a tub of yogurt. That then evens out and plateaus that energy instead of these peaks and drops. That leaves us feeling tired. I can't be bothered going to the gym. We're underfueling, underperforming. So it's not always just about the amount of food. It really does come down to the quality and quantity. And I hear a lot, Kel, if I don't eat breakfast and I start eating breakfast and I don't snack, then I'm going to put on weight. But those main meals are ginormous. So when I say eating regularly, I mean small regular meals. 1 piece of toast, 2 eggs, or like a quarter of a cup of muesli with, strawberries. I'm not talking, 3 bits of toast, 3 eggs, 2 hash browns. So small regular meals, small snacks, that'll keep your energy going throughout the whole day. And guess what? You'll have energy at the end of the day to work out, to go for a walk, to play with the kids, to ride your bike. That's what life's all about. So we've looked at baseline nutrition and we've looked at training. Let's up it up a notch, hey? Race day. What do we need to do on race day? There's multiple things. We need to hydrate and we need to fuel. So there's a combination there. We also might like to bring in supplements on race day too, and I will talk about those. Now, you might think, I'm not playing a 60-minute game of basketball or running a footy match where you can feel that exertion in your muscles and it makes you feel like you need to eat. Sometimes there's this misinformation that in the moto world, so even just sitting on a dirt bike or sitting in a car, we think that we don't need energy. However, the most biggest organ that uses glucose is our brain. When we're driving a car, we need fast reflexes. We need to be alert. We need concentration, and we need those things instantly. Any drop in those things can be, quite a serious outcome to performance. So we still need to be fueling that glucose throughout the entire day. So you've got that endurance approach. You're out on the track for the whole day. And then you're getting those short, sharp snippets of energy burning. So think drag racing. You're there for the whole day, hot conditions, just being on your feet and standing and walking around, talking and preparing, all burns energy. Then you're getting in that car for a short sprint, but that glucose needs to be available. So it's important to continue eating throughout the day. Small, frequent meals, high carb, and the rest, comes into it. I guess that's a point to sort of you can be a little bit more relaxed on race day in terms of, that baseline nutrition that I was talking about. So we use in sports nutrition things like lolly snakes, carbohydrate gels, honey, just a basic honey sandwich, sports drinks. So things that we wouldn't recommend in a baseline nutrition, your day-to-day living, is where we actually use it on race day though. Very high carbohydrate in very small amounts. So 5 lolly snakes will give you 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate, and we're wanting 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour of activity. So when I go desert racing and I go race my bike through the desert, I'll have a carbohydrate gel either at the start of the line, if I'm not stopping for a fuel stop, But if I'm stopping at a fuel stop, I'll have one at the fuel stop to keep you going. Now, if you think about it, having it at the very start, that energy is still in the stomach. So if you've done all the right things, you've done your 3 to 4 hour carbohydrate, you've done your 30 to 60 minute carbohydrate. If you have that sort of, octane boost on the line, that's still in your stomach and it's filtering through. So if you're doing a 2 to 4 hour race on your dirt bike, it's actually still coming out of the digestive tract and into the bloodstream. So it's topping you up as you're riding. Then you're having it at fuel stop, it's going to keep getting you through. The biggest thing I see is, it's not much. It's only a 2 hour race. The thing is prevention is better than cure. The tricky thing with sports nutrition is we need to actually be eating and getting these carbs in when we actually don't feel like we need it, because you're doing it to preempt the drop that's coming later. I see it a lot, especially with women. I guess sometimes we're more at risk of underfueling, but we're wanting to, like I said, prevent that from happening. So it does take a bit of practice to be eating when you don't really feel that you need to at that time. Remember, it's going into the stomach and getting stored there for an hour or so before it goes through to the bloodstream and delivered through to your muscles. So whilst you might not feel you need it right now, you're eating your breakfast for your 10 o'clock race. You're eating your lunch for your 3 p.m. race, okay? So really important to have those consistent carbohydrate throughout the day. Supplements. So I've talked about caffeine already. Caffeine is an interesting one. It's definitely a not more is best. So we can under and overdo caffeine. Caffeine is a drug and we only need small amounts for sporting performance. So not large amounts. We don't really want to add adrenaline into that and be at the race line like this, shaking, or your heart just bursting through. You've got your helmet on, you can almost feel the blood pumping in your ears. So small amounts of caffeine in the lead up to the race is good and it helps with endurance. So I like to have caffeine in my carbohydrate gels when I'm racing my dirt bike. It gives me the direct energy through glucose and the indirect energy that's tackling my central nervous system, keeping me alert and focused, and doing that throughout the day. So we don't want to do that having nothing, having too much, having nothing, having too much. When I was working as the dirt bike dietitian, a lot of the blokes would say to me, lollies make you crash, carbs make you crash. I'm like, they don't. If you're having insufficient carbohydrate and then flooding yourself with glucose, yeah, you'll crash. But if you're using that glucose to keep you topped up, where's that crash? So you're getting that, low GI carbohydrate, breakfast, lunch, and dinner should be keeping you up. And the glucose that we're adding is just topping you up and keeping you stable. They shouldn't be crashing at all if you're doing it the right way. True and trash. Bear with me. So it has a benefit at times where people might be using it in a set time to specifically cut in a bodybuilding industry and trying to lean out. In general perspective, I class calorie counting as a dieting approach to weight management and health, and you can absolutely lose weight and better your health without calorie counting. Different people, different uses, but it's going to sit there on a borderline for me. Trash. Trash. Ooh, true and trash. It can be used very well if you do the 5 part where you're actually eating that healthy baseline diet, and then the 2 still eating healthfully. It can work very beautifully, and there's some strong evidence for fasting. Unfortunately, when people take the 5 and 2 and eat whatever they want, thinking that the fast will sort it out, there's no change, there's no impact on health, because remember, we're always trying to improve our heart, lung, eye, the whole body approach. So eating junk, those extra foods that I was talking about too often, thinking you can get away with it by a couple of days fasting, won't work. Trash. True. There's time and place for pre-workout. Just don't go overboard. Look after your heart, please. I'd have to check the evidence. There can be some evidence for those, absolutely. True. True. Grain of salt. Pickle juice for cramps? True. Trash. The evidence for it is surprisingly low. It's cheap. It doesn't do much risk. So I'll never stop someone taking it, unless of course it's giving them diarrhea and gut problems, which it certainly can. But the evidence for the use of magnesium is incredibly low. Oh, true and trash. It's really important to try and do some research. The Australian Institute of Sport has excellent evidence-based guidelines that you can have a look at yourself. There are tiered levels of supplement use, particularly in sport. You've got gold tier like caffeine, carbohydrate, and then it goes down the list to your very low evidence supplements, but they're still safe like magnesium. Then of course you've got your prohibited and banned substances, which you can have access to there. So yes, their supplements have a very important role at times, like iron for the treatment of anemia. So if it's correcting a deficiency, they will work. If they're not correcting a deficiency and adding no benefit, often they are very costly. And unfortunately, humans are very vulnerable and chasing that quick fix and something that might work. And the supplement industry is worth gazillions, and they are very good at marketing and targeting us as vulnerable people. So even things like the BCAAs, they look shiny and they look great in gyms. However, the evidence to back it up is very poor. Trash, clearly. Just be careful because there's a risk of cross-contamination. You can actually look up batch tested, and they can provide you with that safety and knowledge that your product, even as simple as protein powders, are tested and safe and won't come up on a drug screening test. Yep, trash and truth. They can be really beneficial for people that don't like breakfast or who are trying to get that weight loss kick-started or pre-surgery. We use Optifast as a medical nutrition therapy guided by a doctor and a dietitian for weight loss. It's not a long-term approach, but it has benefits in short-term weight loss regimes and can help. So I've mentioned already the use of supplements, which can be things like caffeine and those carbohydrates for performance, that 30 to 60 grams per hour, right? Now, in some instances, we need to get those really quick from foods like lollies or soft drink even. So a can of Coke that provides sugar, and it also provides that caffeine. Carbohydrate gels, which is pure sugar and glucose. These foods you don't typically see a dietitian recommending. And I've had people get a bit confused when I'm running out giving the boys lollies on the footy field when I've been a runner. And they're like, you're a dietitian. Yes, but sports nutrition principles are different. But also remembering that these foods can absolutely form a healthy part of our life. So whilst I talked about those 5 food groups, they're our core groups. The foods that don't fit into that are what we call, technical term is discretionary. Do you know what I call them? I call them fun foods, extra foods, sometimes foods. My kids eat them, I eat them. Trying to form a balance and moderation is what's more important. So I've worked a lot in the field of eating disorders and disordered eating. It is quite a large spectrum, and it can start with just cutting out food groups to full-blown anorexia nervosa, ending up in hospitalization. So there is a spectrum of disordered eating. Healthy eating is where we are consuming those 5 food groups We aren't obsessed with weight and shape. We exercise and partake in physical activity for enjoyment and for health, for our cardiovascular system, for our respiratory system, and our mental health. We're not doing it to punish ourselves for what we've eaten or trying to achieve an unrealistic image of weight and shape that we might be seeing on the ever-increasing social media these days. A part of that as well that I was talking about, that healthy, what is healthy, is being able to consume those fun foods or extra foods in moderation without feeling guilt and then feeling the need to go burn it off or saying things like, I shouldn't have had that. I am a huge believer in how we talk to ourselves and positive speaking, talking, and relationships with food. So it's all well and good having the most perfect diet in the world, but if you don't have a healthy relationship with that food, that in itself is not really healthy. So, the whole, I shouldn't have had that, that's naughty, that's a bad food, junk food, I need to go burn that off. These aren't healthy relationships, okay? No food should ever be attached to any feeling of guilt. I like to think of food as neutral. So no good, no bad. We just have foods to eat every day, and we have foods to eat sometimes and in small amounts. Now, I'm not enabling you to go eat as many lollies as you want. I'm saying that we need to moderate it at a level that it doesn't negatively impact on our health. So these foods like bakery goods, chips, chocolates, alcohol, lollies, oils and fats and bacon, they can predispose us to more negative health conditions like excessive weight gain or diabetes and other chronic health conditions if we are over consuming them. If we're enjoying them in small amounts and not too frequently, then it won't negatively impact on our health. Unfortunately, I can't just give you a guide of 1 chocolate per day or 2 lollies a week, because we all are so different in our health, what we're already eating and how much exercise we do. There's different levels of tolerance. So a way that I try and educate people about how to self-assess is by using the FAT acronym. Frequency, amount, type. What type of food is it? How much are you having? And how frequently are you having it? So if the type is fruit, we want 2 serves every day, right? If it's an iced coffee, sorry everyone, I know it gets picked on a lot, but say for example, you're having a 600 ml iced coffee every single day of the work week. What we can do is we can use the FAT acronym to work on a reduction, not a restriction. So it stays in your life, it gives you happiness and joy without negatively impacting on your health anymore. So what could we do? We could change the type. We could change it to, a diet drink. Doesn't sound that appealing. We could change it to water, super healthy, but are you getting that enjoyment from it? What else can we change? We can change the amount. So we can go from 600 ml to 300 ml, get the small ones. We can change the frequency of consumption. So if you're having it every day, let's drop it down to 300 ml every second day. Might still sound like a lot to some people, and maybe it's not giving you the health benefit that you expected. Remember that habits take time and your goals take time and should change. So you can set your goal for 300 ml iced coffee every second day for the next month, and then you work on gradually reducing it to every 3rd day till eventually you're having an iced coffee on a Friday, and that's it. It's not restriction, it's a reduction. You still get the enjoyment, but it's not increasing your risk of chronic health disease or other health issues. So trying to find a happy medium there. It can be tricky and it does take practice. And a lot of it always boils down to our relationship with food and how we think about food and our body image. So eating to fuel, not to change our weight. We're eating to perform. We're eating so our skin feels good and healthy. We're looking after our heart, after our blood sugar levels, and our bones. So some of the most amazing weight loss stories that I've had with my clients is when weight loss is secondary. It's a symptom of the client trying to reduce their blood sugar levels to manage their diabetes, or if they're trying to reduce their cholesterol to prevent heart disease. When we focus on our health and our longevity, so we want to live longer, fulfilling lives, weight, when we focus on weight, it's negative, it's not enjoyable, we feel like it's punishment. So sometimes flipping the script, eat for your health, because even if your weight doesn't change, and I've seen this, I have seen women where their weight stays exactly the same, or they drop 5 and stay there, but their blood sugars are in control, their cholesterol's normal, they've stopped their blood pressure medication. I'm like, how amazing is that? They're out walking, they're socializing, they're still enjoying food. Then comes learning self-acceptance and a healthy body image. So there's also a spectrum of that, just like there is disordered eating and eating disorders. We're never going to love ourselves every single day completely. It's just over the top, right? We need to form more neutrality, being more neutral with our bodies. So I really recommend focusing on the wonderful things your body can do. I can get on a dirt bike and I can hop a log. I can race 130 k's an hour out in the desert. I can lift a 100-kilo dirt bike off me when it falls on me. Strong, healthy, my body can do amazing things. The flaws that we have are generally things that set us apart from everyone else. It makes us different and diverse. Could you imagine if we all look like Brad Pitt? It would be pretty boring. The beauty standard is, if we're all looking the same, then what is that? So we're trying to accept our flaws. We're trying to focus on all the amazing things our body can do. We need to fuel it for optimal health and performance and energy and longevity, and coming to peace with that and being mindful of what we're consuming. I'm not talking food. I'm talking your social media screens with heavily edited, high makeup. Some of these models that we're looking at don't even look like that. And they probably had the most horrendous day, out in the cold, full, a couple of hours doing their makeup. And then they still edit the pictures. And this is what we think that we need to try and achieve. Absolutely not. Find role models in your life that promote a different definition of beauty, not what we're consuming on the TV and on the screens. And, even these, with the whole social media and the moto industry, where there can be a path to trying to gain sponsorships, and some of the images that you might see don't necessarily help the sport or even, help performance. So always trying to keep that healthy level of body image, healthy level of nutrition, find role models, surround yourself with people that have a healthy outlook on life and what health actually means. Thanks for joining me. My name's Kel Martin. You can find me at the Dirt Bike Dietitian on Instagram. I have an ebook available that has lots of information about all things sports nutrition and fueling performance. It might be targeted at dirt bike riders, but is appropriate to use in all sports. For getting this far, please take a screenshot of this meal plan in 3, 2, 1.